Hello there, MegaMogwai here, and I got yet another Legends of Runeterra for you guys. Today we are back, even though technically the daily uploads have kept flowing. We are back from vacation, and now we are present Mogwai, which means more 12-year-old reactions, even though today we won't have one of those, because we're going to be going over a champion that was revealed in the weekend, where I had no, or barely, any internet, and I realized that I have a lot of cards to cover. So without further ado, I'm just gonna jump into this because we're here on Mobalytics, right? And I have, if memory serves right, I've done up until, can you see my mouse? Now you can. You see Kane right here, right? So from Silence and Suppress all the way up, we haven't talked about any of these cards, and I want to cover them in this video and discuss them a little bit, as tomorrow we'll get back to the gameplay videos, unless maybe tomorrow we get a champion review actually. So I guess it's back-to-back. It's back-to-back Andy. So hope you guys are doing great. I missed you. I had a great time, by the way, in case you're wondering. It was a great weekend, and I am feeling not bad, you know, because last time I went, I actually got sick. So this time around, I'm pretty good. And I'm excited to just get this expansion rolling. Even though we still have a lot of stuff to play, I want to see how the meta has settled as well. If there's as much aggro running around at this point, I don't think that'll be the case. And yeah, let's just jump into it. So first of all, we got Silenced and Suppress. I am recording, right? One day there'll be a video in which I'll say that. 1 mana, slow speed spell that says destroy a unit's equipment, and if it's a follower, silence it. Now people have been comparing this card to Equinox, which is a bit of a mistake, because obviously this card is better than Equinox from Targon, as it does exactly the same thing, but it also allows us to destroy a unit's equipment. The big difference between this and Equinox is you don't have to main deck Equinox. You can search or invoke Equinox through your several cheap invoke mechanics, while this card has to be included in your 40 card deck, which makes it a little bit more polarizing. And depending on how the meta shapes up and how relevant equipments are, it'll become, you know, decent or just complete garbage, because at first glance it is purely a worse version of Purify. Even though it is 1 mana less, it's slow speed. And, you know, Purify is not a card that really sees play right now. But we're seeing a lot of equipments being printed, which makes me think that maybe this card actually may find a home in Demacia decks, even though Demacia decks have been running pretty much the same card package for quite a while. Maybe, just maybe, they can make a room for Silent and Suppress. Checking my mic. My mic is working, right? Okay. But as of right now, I don't quite see it. So that's that. Then we got the Hex Obliterator, 6 mana PNZ Vengeance, pretty much, that deals 5 mana to a unit, and if I kill it, I obliterate it. In case you're wondering, obliterate means the unit doesn't die, so Last Breath is not triggered, amongst other things. So it's a very clean removal. Could potentially be better than a Vengeance in many scenarios. The problem is 5 damage is not quite there, I think, to really compare this and make it and have it even consider even it being as reliable as a Vengeance, right? If it dealt 6 damage like Sunburst, but I guess it's the way to balance it, because if it did deal 6 damage, then this card would make Sunburst look bad, even though Sunburst also silences, because this card is fast speed. So I think it's ultimately a good addition to PNZ. It is damage based, so it doesn't really break the whole theme of the region and what it does, right? Like PNZ is good at dealing damage, but it's not good at like vengeancing things. let's just label it like that, right? Like it relies on pure damage to deal with units, and this is no exception, but it does give PNZ a bit more control potential as obliterating something. There's a lot of things that trigger upon dying, so killing them with this will actually matter quite a bit, and I think it's just a very good card to add to the pool, even though it's not gonna, you know, it's not going to shake things up too much, but it is a good resource to have, and I like that they made it. Then we have the Loaded Vessel, which is a 5 mana fast speed spell that deals 2 to a unit. Draw 1 at the next round start for each damage dealt, and give them fleeting. This is giving me casino vibes, like super casino vibes. This is essentially a very big reason to try to combine PNZ with Bilgewater and with the Ruined Rex and with Kegs, right? because the more you deal damage, you know, because this is initially 2, but it can be enhanced via kegs, or there are other means, because there's also equipments now that enhance. Well, there we go, the Catalyst 1.0. I actually clicked on it by accident, but it was perfect. Yeah, this card like automatically like works with that, right? As we see that your spells and skills deal 1 damage. It is essentially Funsmith, the equipment. But the fact that it's an equipment makes it more reliable than Funsmith, because the problem with Funsmith is that she's a 4-mana 1/3, and it's hard to justify and keep alive a 4-mana 1/3 on the board that is automatically going to become the #1 target for the opponent. With it's not Catalyst, it's Catalyst. is that what it is? Catalyst? What is a Catalyst? Well, it's a Catalyst, and it's the 1.0 version. This card can be played onto a more resilient unit. It costs 3 mana, so you're investing less to set up this ability, and ultimately it's going to be much better than Funsmith because of this. And it already works well with a loaded vessel by increasing the damage by 1, which will allow you to draw 1 more card at the next round, which allows you to pump up a Ruin Rex, right? And have a 5-mana, Riptide Rex essentially going on. So I'm really, really excited to try that out, basically. Like that, this loaded vessel is one of the coolest cards revealed, and I'm just really, really hyped. We could have started with Master Yi, but just going from I mean, the thumbnail is going to be Master Yi review, but we're going to get that because we're just following the order here, but we will get there eventually. Then, we already talked about Catalyst. We got the Noxian Defector. The Noxian Defector is a 4-mana 2/4 with quick attack that has an attack effect of growing my power to that of the strongest equipped ally this round. And it does have quick attack, so it is an interesting 4-drop. I do feel like it falls into that category of 4-drops that may not quite be doing enough, may not quite be, just providing enough power to justify a slot, because 4-mana slots are very contested, especially within a region like Noxus, and the regions that I tend to combine with. But I very much could be wrong, and this card could be very, very relevant. It all depends on how, obviously you need to play this in an equipment deck and how good equipment decks ultimately are. Speaking of equipment decks, we got Mistfall here, the equipment landmark. 3-mana Ionia landmark that says, when I'm summoned, draw an equipment, so automatically replaces itself upon entry, which is good. The first time each round an unequipped ally is equipped, refill 1 spell mana and grant them +1. Like, this is an investment to start equipping. And it's going to allow you to ultimately, just reduce the cost of your equipments by 1. That's essentially what this card is doing. It's kind of like a ramp sort of resource for these equipment strategies. I think this could be extremely relevant. The fact that it costs 3 mana is a bit clunky, though, because if I remember correctly, Master Yi is 3 mana, which, makes things a little bit awkward. Because I believe Master Yi does want to be working with equipments. Yeah, they're both 3 mana, so that's a bit of an issue, but it depends. I think this card will be more prevalent in I guess, more mid-rangey, slower equipped decks. I don't know generally what the pace is going to be. Like, this is a completely new mechanic that's very hard to evaluate without actually trying it out. But I think it could be good. It's one of those things that's either going to be really good or terrible. I feel like it's not really gonna fall in between. Maybe I'm completely wrong and it's actually just like average, but I just don't see it shaping out like that. It's a card that, depending on how these sort of decks curves out, could be extremely important or a little bit of a trap. We'll just have to wait and see for that. Shadowblade Fanatic, aka another variant of a Zed Shadow, I assume is what this is. 3/2 for 3 mana with quick attack that says, once you've equipped an ally this game, create a Shadow Fiend in hand. In case you're wondering, Shadow Fiend is a 1 mana 4/3 ephemeral Ionian unit. So whenever you equip an ally, you create one of these Shadow Fiends in hands, which allows you to just not really like, it's a very powerful card in a way, because it's just guaranteeing that you always have extra extra fuel to apply pressure to the opponent, because a 1 mana 4/3, yeah, it's dying, right? But we've seen how good the stage hand has been in aggressive decks by just representing 4 damage for 2 mana while stunning something. This is 1 mana, we're not stunning something, but we're still developing a 4-power unit that's either going to be blocked or going to deal 4 damage to the Nexus. So the fact that you can keep generating these every single time, actually no, that would be too much. I think I misread this. Once you've equipped an ally this game, create a Shadow Fiend in hand. I think I gotta read this probably. Once you have. So that means that it only happens once. Because if this happened every time you equip something, maybe it would be absolutely busted. I think this is how it works. The other variant just feels a bit too strong. Yeah, once you have equipped an ally in this game, you create a Shadow Fiend in hand. So this can happen when it's a summon, or it can happen while it's on the board and you equip something, right? It's one of those effects that only triggers once, but can do so, you know, the requirement can be met while this card is in your hand or on the board, is how it's worded. So yeah, I almost butchered that. I'm also like, I'm relieved that I didn't react to Master Yi, because the reaction video was a bit of a mess, because they were saying, like, when we talk about Master Yi, like I'll talk, yeah, I'll dive into it when we reach him. But there was like an errata with his text, and I was freaking the fuck out. But I'll talk about that when we get there. So we got June the Prodigy, 3 mana 4/3. The first time I am equipped to give me barrier and lifesteal this round. The fact that they combine those two together is a very big deal. On top of the fact that it's a 3 mana 4/3, so it's got a good stat line for 3 mana. This card feels really solid and will be pretty important, I feel, if equipments are prevalent for sure. Shivan Wind, 2 mana burst speed spell that's not part of the card pool actually, so I think we have to look at another card. The Vestalian Disciple, 1 mana, 1/1 elusive with Nexus Strike, recall me and transform me into Shivan Wind, which is the card. I think we can actually, no, it doesn't work like this. Oh, that sucks. They're ordered by they're ordered by alphabetic. It'd be nice if I could go back and forth like this instead of having to do this. Okay, now I have to go back a few times. So this is like a mourned, right? But instead of having 2 power, it's recalling itself and giving you a spell. The spell can work with the flow mechanic, right, as you cycle through your deck, and it can also allow you to spawn an elusive blocker at burst speed, which is very relevant as well. It's a very, very damn good 1-drop. Very different from Mourn, even though it seems like they serve the same purpose. They actually don't. But it is balanced by only having 1 power. If this thing had 2 power, it would be insane, right? But it is a really, really good 1-drop for what you're trying to do, especially because it gives you a cheap spell that cycles through. And then we have the Disciple of Duran right here that says, when I'm summoned, you can see my mouse, yeah. Create a preparation in hand. Preparation is a 1 mana. This is one of the coolest ones, in my opinion. I remember looking over this card with Gabby right next to the full, actually. We were talking about these cards, and she was like, well, she was confused at first, right? Because I was confused at first, too, when I saw this. Because you're paying 1 mana to reduce the cost of a spell, but the name of the card indicates the utility of this. You are preparing. You want to reduce the cost of a spell in your hand so that later in the game you can play it for 1 mana less. And there's a lot of cool things you can enable. The preparation as well also allows you to enable flow, which we see right here with the Soul Sword for 4 mana. If you enable flow, which means that if you played 2 spells that round, you are able to play the Soul Sword for 2 mana, which gives +3/+2 stat lines, which is just really damn neat. We have another card here that's not part of the pool, so another card that's being generated by the Wu Yu style, which is Master Yi's signature spell, which gives an ally +2 this round, and then you create a meditate that gives +2 health, right? So for 3 mana, you're giving +2/+2 to something, but it's split into spells, which is naturally intended to enable the flow mechanic. Now, let's talk about your boy. This is what I was going to say earlier. Like, Master Yi, like, I'm really happy I didn't react to him. I felt bad about not reacting to him, you know, like, because he's a very, very cool champion. I'm very excited about him. But it was a bit of a mess with the video because they said that, grant all allied everywhere +2 power. So the first time that I saw this, naturally, I reached the conclusion that Master Yi, whenever you triggered flow, you gave all of your allies +2 power, like everywhere. So I was already thinking of like combining this with Noxus and House Spider and just having the most broken deck ever. Like I was like, what the fuck? How did this even get through the testing, right? But then it turns out that the text was a little bit fucked up, and it actually, this is the actual text right here, right? So Master Yi is a 2/3 quick attack unit for 3 mana in Ionia, with the round start effect of reducing the cost of a spell in your hand by 1 this round. And once you achieve flow, You grant all allied Master Yis everywhere +2 power. And then the level up requirement is of him dealing 12 damage. If we look at the, we see the Wuju stuff here, and here we see the leveled up version of Master Yi. When Master Yi levels up, there's only one thing that changes within the, well, actually two. The stats, naturally, it grows to a 3-4, and one thing changes in the ability. The rest is the same. But what changes is this right here. Attack, I immediately strike the weakest enemy. This happens at burst speed, in case you're wondering. So there's no like skill being generated to do this. Like once he attacks, he will just wipe out the weakest enemy, and that is such a dope ability, such a dope payoff for what looks to be like a very, very, very powerful champion. My first impression with Master Yi at least is that, and now we just did that again. Goddamn. So this is gonna be a champion that can work. I think Master Yi will go beyond equipments. Like obviously there's incentive to combine Master Yi with equipments, since there are equipments that work with flow as well. Master Yi is a card that ultimately can just grow on his own though, without equipment. So there's a lot of potential combinations. Naturally, some that come to mind include Demacia because of the ability to strike things, and because of the card known as Cataclysm, which enables, like, a lot of people wonder why we see a lot of Demacia mixes with new champions. Because a lot of times champions have quick attack, right? Like quick attack is the keyword that's mostly assigned to champions actually, and quick attack works extremely well with cards like Cataclysm, and that's kind of like the identity that Demacia has worked towards or has led to in the past few years. And there's no reason not to do the same with Master Yi. Combine Master Yi with strike spells or with Cataclysm to enable the level up. Demacia naturally works well with Ionia because Ionia provides the defense and the disruption, while Demacia allows you to also incorporate disruption with strike spells, but it enables you to really punish your opponent for a well-developed board because you have access to rally effects amongst the strike spells as well, and you can combine that with good challenger units that can work out well, potentially with the equipments too. So because I saw somebody mention, oh, this is going to be another champion that works with Demacia, and yeah, the gist of it is probably, it's very likely. If not Demacia, then you can look at Shurima too. Like that's definitely two regions that I'm expecting to work really well with Master Yi. But nonetheless, he looks amazing. He looks really, really, really good. Just builds up well, and the fact that he's reducing the cost of a spell in your hand by 1. I mean, you can also mix him with Riven, right? Because you can reduce the fragments by 1, and that can allow you to flow even quicker. And also achieving flow with fragments, that makes it much easier, right, as well. And you can combine that, and you can, instead of using stuff like Cataclysm, you can use the Minotaur Reckoner, which can allow him to get a free attack, and that's just good synergy overall. So there's a lot of potential for this champion. It's a design that's more broad. I feel like you can combine them with a bunch of different tactics, and I think that's what good champion design is in Legends of Runeterra. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Master Yi, and we're going to see him in different shapes and forms, and that makes me really excited personally, because I think they really did well with this design. I think it's one of those cases where they just really nailed it, and it looks really exciting, really fun, but also very powerful to mess around with, and I cannot wait to try out Master Yi and slash my opponents with that. Like, I don't really understand like the lore of the champion himself. He looks like a regular samurai here, but then he has like this futuristic helmet. I wonder if somebody can explain that to me in the comments section below. Thank you. Arigato gozaimasu. All right, so let's move on to the next. Let's not make this video forever, as I wanna get to that back alley bar. I wanna talk about that a little bit. But before that, we're gonna talk about the Seal and Steel. Seal and Steel is a 2-mana. As you guys can see, target spell here that is fast speed. It says obliterate an ally and create a corrupted form with its stats. The corrupted form will be sent to your hand, even though there are cards that can automatically equip, which is important to note. You are obliterating the unit, which means that you cannot combine Seal and Steel with last breath effects, which I think would be really cool if you could destroy it and then make an equipment, but that's not the case with this card specifically. So what is the utility of this? There must be some cards that automatically like synergize with it within this set. We have Horazi here, which is an 8-mana 7/7 with Spell Shield that supports grow my supported ally stats to mine, given my positive keywords this round. Horazi, though, is actually not a card a part of the card pool. It's potentially generated by the Darkened Lodestone, which is a regular 2-mana, pretty pretty tame equipment here. 2 mana +1/+1. That gives us supported ability of granted my supported ally +1/+1. Actually, this equipment is really good. This equipment is actually does not tame at all. It's actually a lot of stats. It turns your unit, it gives your unit +1/+1 and turns it into an Esmus. That's pretty damn good. And then you can spend 8 mana instead, if it's like very late in the game, to just play itself as Horazi. Like this has to be one of the best equipment, without a doubt. Like, it's great early on, and it's actually like a power draw in the late game as well. Like, it's just, what more can you ask out of a card like this? Definitely fantastic. And with Horazi, if you manage to give Horazi more keywords, then you can grant them to whatever they are supporting. So that's an important thing to consider when deck building with this card. So neat stuff for Targon. You know, I think it does fit Targon's theme, but it is definitely something new, right? Which is really cool. We got the Back Alley Bar. I'm gonna be messing around with this card. 6 mana, landmark. I love the idea. I love that, you know, this card, like, this guy has not seen play. People have been asking me to make a Back Alley Barkeep for a deck for forever, right? And you guys have never really seen that on the channel because I just never really thought there was enough support to truly justify it. Now with this card, I'm gonna mess around with it because it's a very powerful effect. Like, your new cards cost 1 less. That means not created cards, but cards that you create from that point onwards, right? Which means that when you play this, after you play this, every card that you create will cost 1 less. And that is really strong. It can be like, from a competitive standpoint, it probably is a bit too slow to be represented like a top tier deck, but it definitely, I think it's definitely going to be playable. And there's a lot of fun shit you can do with this, specifically with the Back Alley Barkeep, right? Like, I'm thinking of a combination with Shadow Isles, potentially, with Fading Memories, but essentially, and Chronicler of Ruin as well. But the idea is to build, now we have the ability to build a deck that can generate a bunch of Back Alley Barkeeps because we have a total of 6 of them, aside from cards that create, and that makes a huge difference. Going from 3 to 6 ways to play a card, because then you slap in all the other cards that copy cards that you have on the board already, but you have a much more consistent game plan because you're able to, you have 3 extra copies of the card that you want to get on the board to start this rolling, right? So very, very important for the Back Alley Barkeep archetype, for the Back Alley Bar to be a thing. We're essentially playing 6 mana, we're playing 2 extra mana to spawn a Back Alley Barkeep, on top of that getting this effect. So really, really cool, and I'm definitely going to be messing around with it. Mecha Pulverizer, 3 mana Bandle City equipment that gives +3/+3 stats, and says to play discard 1, a little bit of extra discard synergy that could work well with Mecha Yordles, right? I don't think that's a coincidence, and a neat addition overall. And now we're going to move on to today's reveals. To finish off the video, we got these 5 right here, which were revealed today. So let's just go ahead and start off with the Mysterious Portal because it's going to explain the other cards a little bit better. Mysterious Portal is a new boon type that these other cards generate, and I think this is a really, really cool design. Summon a random 2 or 3 cost follower. Yes, that includes the Solitary Monk. I've seen the post. Yes, that is correct. You can actually spawn a you can spawn a Solitary Monk and just completely recall your entire board. That's going to happen. And I think it's hilarious, you know? Every time you're going to play this, part of you is going to be freaking out because you could just lose your entire board. But yeah, you get a random 2 or 3 cost follower from all regions, so completely, yeah, we Hearthstone with this bitch. If your board is full, you create a 0 cost fleeting copy of it in hand instead. So there's no punish if you overcommit, or you know, there's no punish for actually having a full developed board, which shouldn't be a thing, and I like that a lot about it. And then you got these cards that work with it. Keep in mind that for example, the Magical Journey, which has Bard in the card, is actually a card that you can include in Bard decks, because it also plants chimes. The other three don't work that way. The other three don't work with Bard though. Like you have to actually make a Bandle City Bard deck to do it. So keep that in mind. But this one does for burst speed for 2 mana. You plant a Mysterious Portal randomly in the top 4 cards of your deck, and then you plant 3 chimes on random cards in your deck. I like the other ones more though. The Origami Slicer, for example, is a really cool equipment design. You give me +1 for each of your traps or boons that was activated this round. I would like to build like a Teemo Caitlyn deck with this card, like putting this onto Teemo and hitting our opponent for like a lot. You can hit them for a lot, right? If you get those mushrooms rolling, and just for 1 mana, it's not that heavy of an investment either. So I like it. You can also give it to Caitlyn, which makes her really powerful with that quick attack. And ultimately, there's definitely room for a card like this in that archetype, and I'm really pumped for that. We got the Tea Maker, the 3 mana 3/1. When I'm summoned to plant a Mysterious Portal randomly in the top 4 cards of your deck. I like, like Magical Journey, like Junk Construct. I like that it's the top 4 cards. It's not completely hyper random. It's very control, and in fact, you're bound to pick up the boon early, right? It's kind of like, it's similar to that Avarosan Trapper sort of effect, right? And I really like that decision. Junk Construct is a 2/2 with Last Breath of planting a Mysterious Portal randomly in top 4 cards of your deck. So they have both the same effect, but one is Last Breath and the other one is when I'm summoned. I think the Junk Construct is ultimately better because it's the same amount of stats. It's not a fearsome blocker, but it's more resilient, can trade into 1-drops and cannot be pinged. And, in most games, it's going to end up dying because at that stage of the game, there's a lot of combat happening in most matchups, so it's going to be hard for your opponent to ignore it, unless you're facing a full-on control deck, but then you have a 2/2 that just keeps beating on them, right? And then ultimately, they have to answer. So I like the design of these phase, and I think that the Junk Construct is ultimately a little bit better, but they're all very neat additions, and it's nice to expand. Just like we did on traps by including the Flash Bomb traps, now we're expanding on boons. And this is really neat. And that's all the cards right there. So, we actually covered them quite quick. That's very nice. I'm actually very proud of myself. Gonna pat myself on the back for that one. Really excited cards. For me, personally, the most exciting. I'm really excited for Catalyst. I think Catalyst, it's just right up my alley. Like, I love these kind of cards. I love building with Funsmith. I love the idea of an equipment that works like Funsmith. And I really love that Bilgewater PNZ combination with the kegs. And I can't wait to explore that and Loaded Vessel as well. Really excited for this package. Obviously, really intrigued and excited for the equipment to see overall how they function. And I think Master Yi is just a really dope champion that they got the design right for. It's always early to say, but it really does give me that impression, as it does feel very Ionia, but does provide something new, while at the same time, it is part of the region's identity. Like, Flow is a very, there's been some keywords that they designed recently that I haven't really been super hyped about, but I think Flow is definitely a very good call. And then we got the Back Alley Bar, and, Origami Slicer, some really good shit, and good stuff for Target as well. Great cards. This expansion is looking really interesting, unique. The fact that we're getting a new card type is obviously incredibly exciting. And I can't wait to see what these Bandle City, like, people don't really know what champion it's associated with, so we're gonna have to wait and see. Maybe, like, I've seen some talks about, like, maybe we're getting a Legends of Runeterra exclusive champion. I don't think it's gonna happen. I think Legends of Runeterra is, one of its perks is to, get champions that are in other games, so people want to play them in different games. But maybe I'm wrong, because I was wrong about this expansion even being a thing, because I thought we were getting 3 champion expansions for the rest of time. And I have never been happier to be wrong about something, so yeah, I'm going to stop rambling at this point. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for daily Legends of Runeterra content. I think we'll have a champion reveal tomorrow, and it'll be this mysterious Bandle City one. But maybe I'm just wrong about everything. Who knows? But I missed you guys, and I'm happy to be back, and hopefully you are excited for what's to come, as we're going to be messing around with all these things, and there's just a lot of brewing to be happening. Let me know which champion you're looking forward to, like, first. Like, would you guys like to see Kayn or Master Yi first? As that's actually really important, because a lot of times I don't know which champion to lead with. Most of the time it's like a personal preference, but I like them both. So yeah, let me know what would you like to see. That'll help out. Yeah, I'm gonna stop talking. Alright, kept that to 30 minutes. There we go. Fantastic. Love ya. Have a slow day. Stay tuned for daily Legends of Runeterra content. I'll see you guys tomorrow.